Tonight on Comicstorian, we're going to be having a look at some more adventures of Spider-Man 2099 from his original 90s run, as per the request of you, the people. This is the Comicstorian channel, where I take some of your favorite trade paperbacks and single issues in the world of comics, and I break them down into a synopsis explaining what was going on during that comic book, while cutting out a lot of the fluff and additional dialogue. This enables you to go out and buy the issue yourself to get the full context, or to go and buy the next issue and still understand what is going on in the world of comics. All alterations to the panel, text, and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. We did the origin of Spider-Man 2099 last week, so this week we're going to be telling you the first actual story outside of his origin. Here we go. Gabriel and his girlfriend shift uncomfortably in the back seat of the maglev car as she asks why they don't just go back to her apartment. But he smiles, and he tells her that he's seizing the moment. The roof is suddenly then sliced open, turning into a convertible, and the futuristic samurai reaches into the car, pulling Casey out by her jacket. "Casey Nash, you are to accompany this one," he tells her as Gabriel looks on in shock. "Lack of resistance will result in a lack of perforation," the samurai tells her, but Casey manages to get free, beginning to run. The samurai bolos her legs before throwing two shurikens to pin Gabriel to the wall before he can get help. "Casey, don't worry, I'll get you out of this," he shouts as the samurai carries her away. Meanwhile, at Miguel O'Hara's apartment, he finally opens the door for Tyler Stone and his security. Though Miguel doesn't seem happy to see him, he invites Stone in, who explains that everyone is on edge with the strange Spider-Man running around. As a quick recap for those of you who might be joining us for the first time, Tyler Stone is the one that manipulated the experiment, turning Miguel O'Hara into a spider monster, and when we last left off, he was knocking on the door of Miguel O'Hara, wanting to talk about Spider-Man. "What do you want?" Miguel growls. Stone doesn't smile, but finally explains that he wants peace between Alchemex and O'Hara. He reaches into his coat, pulling out a vial of Rapture, the drug that he injected O'Hara with to rewrite his DNA, and he offers it to Miguel. "I want you back at the company. Spider-Man dealt us major damage. We need someone to spearhead the corporate raider program. Only you can do it. So let's consider this in advance." Miguel stares at the vial for a moment before leaping across the room, roaring in animalistic rage as he slashes Stone across the face and force feeds him the Rapture. The security tries to stop him, but he whirls, slashing them as well. "One side public eye. I want to see Ty's pasty face when I tell him Miguel O'Hara is Spider-Man. If you are worried about Spider-Man now, just wait. It's gonna get a lot worse," he shouts. "Mike, you okay?" Stone asks as Miguel continues to stare at the vial of Rapture, his own daydream playing out in his head, and he rubs his temple, telling Stone that his mind was wandering. Tyler nods, offering to let Miguel get back to sleep. "I'd like to see you back at work tomorrow," Tyler says as he turns towards the door. "And I swear, we'll play your way. No testing on human subjects until you're ready for it." He explains that he never should have listened to Aaron Delgado on the human subjects in the first place. Miguel is surprised, realizing that that is how human subjects were introduced into the project. "Isn't it obvious? Aaron Delgado is our Spider-Man," Tyler says. Meanwhile, over in Latveria, Doom watches the news as the latest escapades of the mysterious Spider-Man are continuing, musing that it cannot be a mere coincidence that the Wallcrawler would return at the same time as Doom 2099. The next panel sees Miguel getting ready to go to the office by concealing his spider costume under his clothes, believing that learning more about his condition and how to reverse it can only be achieved by working at Alchemex. Outside, he turns his head to see his brother calling for him, and he walks over to the car, shocked to discover that it has become a convertible. "Wouldn't it be easier to buy a convertible?" he asks, but Gabriel just motions to his brother to get in, and they drive away. Gabriel quickly fills him in on what happened to Casey, explaining everything about how she is against the corporations and how they are ruining everyone's lives. "We were making it out of the alleyway when some nut with a sword kidnapped her. You gotta help me, Miguel." And Miguel looks at him in shock, asking why. "Because you work for Alchemex, so make it work positively for once." He explains that he needs Miguel to report the incident to the public eye, so that something can actually be done. "I'll do what I can, Gabe, I promise." He explains as they both drive to Miguel's former and current job, Alchemex. At the lab, Stone shows the new lab to Miguel, hoping that he'll be happy with the new setup. Miguel asks why Tyler thinks that Aaron is the new Spider-Man, but the CEO says that they should discuss that in his office. Elsewhere in the same building, Casey is being dragged through the building by the Alchemex guards, who explains that she has moved against the company far too much. She manages to grab a gun, breaking free of her captors, and makes a run for it. But back over with Miguel and Tyler, Stone explains to Miguel that they believe that Aaron is the Spider-Man because he disappeared. Miguel pauses for a moment to agree. The discussion is then interrupted as Casey suddenly rushes into the side hall, aiming the pistol and ordering them off her hover rig. "Shoot her, that's a direct order," Stone tells his guard. She fires without hesitating, hitting the guard, knocking him into stone. Then she grabs Miguel, putting the gun to his head, dragging him away. She demands to know Miguel's name as they move through the building. Miguel O'Hara, he tells her, already recognizing the picture from Gabriel's car. "You're Gabe's slimeball brother?" she asks in shock, whirling him around, telling him that she was going to be experimented on because of her criminal record. "Destroying the wrong property can be fatal," she tells him, whirling around, running for the exit, reminding Mig to think about what his company was going to do to the woman his brother loves. Miguel watches her run off. Amazing, Gabe hooks up with every loon in the city. He sighs, and suddenly he turns to see the samurai chasing after her on a hoverbike. "One side, please. This one does not wish to injure you in pursuit of the escaped felon," the samurai tells him, and Miguel sighs in anger as he turns, searching for a safe spot to change out of his clothes. And using a Matrix box, he mails his civilian clothes back to his apartment. "Sure hope I'm there to meet him," he shouts as he leaps away as Spider-Man, chasing the samurai and Casey. The samurai chases her down as she whirls around, firing at him, but the warrior blocks the blow and closes in. He flies by her quickly, bringing his sword down, slicing through her weapon. Miguel lands nearby, shooting off his newfound webbing and managing to snag the hoverbike. "Shock! I was aiming for him, but if I can anchor the line," he says as he wraps the webbing around a nearby pole, yanking the warrior off of his ride. "Run, lady! Leave him to me!" he shouts to Casey. The samurai chases after Spider-Man, swinging his sword to slice through him, but Miguel manages to jump over his head, twisting around, adding another blow and kicking him in the chest. "I'm doing it! I'm taking out this guy!" he thinks to himself, getting cocky, rushing in, but the samurai moves, knocking him on the back of his head, slashing him across the back. Several more blows then slam into Spider-Man, knocking him down. "It would not be honorable to kill a man who is anonymous. However, a man of honor does not hide his identity. This one will make you into an honorable man by removing your mask," the samurai says, pulling Miguel back to his feet, reaching for his mask. He's shocked as he begins to pull the mask back, discovering that it is webbed to Miguel's neck. "Your mask adhered to you?" the samurai grunts, but Miguel twists free, slashing his armor. "Not just adhered, webbed!" Stone watches the fight on the monitors in his office, ordering one of his officers to come into the room, ordering them to interrupt all public feeds and broadcast the battle against Spider-Man and a samurai. He then orders all the police officers to converge on Spider-Man, but not apprehend him. "I haven't arranged all of this merely to turn him into another prisoner," Stone snaps. Outside, Spider-Man dodges another sword slice, webbing up the samurai's legs, yanking him off his feet. "Gabe, you owe me big time for bailing you out like this," he thinks to himself. Casey has managed to slip away, but looks up just in time to see the public eye officers converging on Spider-Man. "They're converging on Spider-Man!" "It's a setup. Gotta be," she says, finally turning back to rush towards Spider-Man. As Spider-Man continues to whirl the warrior around by his legs, he's unaware that the samurai's handler is watching him on the video feeds, unhappy about how their prized enforcer is being humiliated. As the handlers contemplate stepping in to help, their leader shakes his head. "If Spider-Man defeats and humiliates our man, his victory will be followed by his destruction." Miguel continues to dodge and slash as the fight continues, but suddenly he gets distracted as the Flyboys come barreling in, allowing the samurai to get several hits in. Meanwhile, Gabe is working at his apartment when Dana visits him. He smiles, letting her in, as she tells him that she is concerned about Miguel. "The only reason that you've lasted this long is you're the only person who loves Miguel more than he loves himself," Gabe informs her. She leans in, telling him not to let their own history poison their friendship. Suddenly, the television changes, showing the fight between Spider-Man and the Specialist. Gabe turns, shocked to see his brother's Day of the Dead costume on TV again. "Miguel?" he whispers. But over in the gathered crowd, Casey manages to jump off of someone's back, leaping onto a low-flying hoverbike. She knocks the cop out, revving up the engine, flying towards the two fighters. "Spider-Man, let's blow!" she shouts as she gets closer. As Spider-Man looks at the Specialist and shrugs as he shoots a line of webbing out. "Gotta go! That's my ride!" He jokes as he's yanked away, but the specialist refuses to be dishonored by allowing Spider-Man to retreat, leaping up to grab onto his leg. As Casey tries to zip away, she shouts down to Spider-Man that the specialist is slowing them down. "Oh sure, complain to me! Tell him!" Spider-Man shouts as he tries to kick the samurai free, but the specialist manages to swing around, grabbing onto the line of webbing, releasing Miguel. "All right, I think I should warn you. I know Kung Fu, Karate, and several other dangerous words." Spider-Man jokes as the two continue to battle. The samurai tries to cut him free, but Miguel manages to swing, grabbing the warrior by the wrist, burying his talons into the gauntlet. Casey has been too focused on the fight, finally looking forward, her eyes widening as shock as she watches a building coming up fast. She tries to gain altitude quickly, shouting for Spider-Man to hang on, and they slam hard into the wall, with the warrior beginning to plummet to the city below. Miguel shoots out another line of webbing, swinging down, catching the specialist, depositing him safely onto the ground. "What do you think of my lack of killer instinct?" Spider-Man asks him, but the warrior rolls over, kicking him in the chest. "It will be the death of you." He snaps. Miguel stumbles, becoming angry, slashing the samurai across the throat. And everyone watches, gasping in shock as the warrior's blood begins to leak out of the new cut in his throat, and he gasps for air. "Perfect," Tyler says with a smile. Spider-Man looks up, his eyes widening as the public eye officers begin to surround him and prepare to fire. "No, you idiots, don't hurt him!" Tyler shouts into his radio, but his words are lost as the police are just opening fire. Rounds slamming into Miguel's body as he bellows in pain and is thrown off the ledge, plummeting into the dark depths of the city below. Downtown, deep below the bright and shining inhabitants of New York City, two watchdogs sit in their buggy. They turn down a side street, slowing down as they see a mother and a young daughter walking home. "Mommy, why are those watchdogs slowing down? Did we do something wrong?" the daughter asks, but the mother tightens her hand on her daughter, telling her to just keep walking. The watchdogs hit them with their scanner and smile. "We're in luck. Records state that Miss Kwan is 2 months behind in security payments." One smiles as he reaches for his pistol, and both men stop their buggy. They get out, stepping in the way of Miss Kwan, the conversation quickly taking a bad turn, and the watchdogs push them both into a dark alley. The daughter tries to fight back, with the watchdogs throwing her into a pile of garbage. "Please, no, not in front of her," Miss Kwan pleads, but the pile of garbage suddenly shifts and a taloned hand reaches free. "Help me!" Spider-Man growls as he struggles up, and one of the watchdogs opens fire. The rounds break off chunks of concrete, but Spider-Man moves, webbing the guy to the wall quickly, with the other one reaching for his pistol. Kwan kicks him below the belt, knocking him to the ground. "Nice kick, lady. Got him where it counts. Where am I?" Spider-Man gasps as he slowly moves forward, but the Kwans aren't listening as the mother scoops up her daughter and runs away. "Wait! Where in blazes am I?" Spider-Man gasps as he moves into the alleyway, trying to crawl up the wall, but he realizes that something is busted inside of him. He struggles forward, finding the buggy parked on the street, and he struggles inside, ordering the automated computer to take him to Babylon Towers. Unable to comply, Miguel sighs as he tries to shift, his insides feeling like gravel. "Whatever, resume course. Get me out of here." He gasps, and the engine comes to life and roars off into the darkness of downtown. Meanwhile, over at Alchemex, Tyler Stone is angry with the sergeant of the public eye that ordered his men to fire on Spider-Man. Despite the man's protests, he's quickly fired and escorted out of the building. "Stone, the CEO wishes to speak to you." A voice comes over his headset. The room darkens and takes on a new shape, revealing the CEO sitting at a shadowy table across from Stone. "It would seem this little game is not played out as planned," the CEO tells him. "You told us you had this Spider-Man situation in hand, Stone. You told us that you could unleash him on Stark Fujikawa. You told us that he would battle and defeat the specialist." Stone tries to defend himself, putting the blame on the public eye officers. The CEO waves him off, ordering him to restore the board's faith in him. And with that, they end the call. Anger overwhelms Stone as he yells for his assistant, ordering him to put together a public eye squad and dispatch them downtown to hunt Spider-Man or his remains. Meanwhile, back downtown, Spider-Man keeps slipping in and out of consciousness, his memories of the last several days blending together to create some horrible dream. "Lila, I need a doctor. Real bad." The buggy's AI hears the words, redirecting him to a local doctor. "Lila, tell me a story. Make the hurting stop." He gasps as he slumps forward, drifting off to sleep again. Meanwhile, Casey continues to hover downtown, but she realizes that she'll never find the new wall crawler this way and decides to call in reinforcements. Revving up the engine of her hoverbike, she flies off. Uptown, Gabe has finally ditched Dana, deciding to head into downtown to try and find his brother. And downtown, the buggy has stopped at a local clinic, causing the doctor to step outside, not happy to have to deal with the watchdogs. "Can I help you, gentlemen?" she calls, cautiously walking forward when there's no answer from the buggy. "Ymir's bones! Nurse!" Meanwhile, the search team from the Public Eye have made their way downtown, working with the watchdogs to track down their lost buggy. Little do they know that a winged man is watching them from the shadows. But back with Spider-Man, he begins to wake up as Dr. Morrow tells him, "You're not dead, but you were close to it." He begins to sit up, forcing her to try and push him back down, telling him that he has broken ribs and fluid in his lungs. "You shouldn't move for at least 24 hours. But he shakes his head, groaning at the moment. "Gotta get home. Everyone's gonna be worried." He begins to pull his costume back on as she continues to argue. "You're going to hurt me. Everyone keeps trying to hurt me," he tells her, but the doctor shakes her head. "I didn't. I helped you. I helped you because you're the harbinger of Thor," she whispers to him. Miguel shakes his head as he finishes pulling on his costume. "That stupid Thorite thing? You're not a Thorite. No stupid outfit. Most of us don't wear those stupid outfits. We take our beliefs seriously and don't turn it into a costume party." Outside, as Miguel is leaving, he finds the Public Eye detachment heading towards him. He jumps onto the buggy, ordering it to take off at top speed, but the vehicle has been shut down. "Terrific!" Miguel snaps as he punches the onboard computer screen, leaping from the buggy just as the Public Eye opens fire. They blow up the buggy, leaving it a scrap heap. And Miguel keeps running as the bullets bounce off the walls, but as the hoverbikes pursue him, he shoots a web line across the walls, snagging at the oncoming cops. Spider-Man then whirls around, his eyes widening as the watchdogs bear down on him in their truck, but he jumps out of the way, rolling across the concrete. "Don't move! You can't escape, Spider-Man!" The Public Eye officer shouts at him. Miguel backs into a nearby wall, still panting from his injuries. "Well, looky here! You look all run out, Spider-Man!" One of the officers chuckles as he steps forward. His weapon is out, but in a blur of motion, his head is cut clean off his body. "Good Lord!" Miguel gasps as the other officers are quickly brought down. "Blood everywhere. Get away!" Spider-Man gasps. His head is swimming when suddenly he's grabbed and lifted into the air. "Get away! Your wish is my command, Spider-Man! We're gonna be great friends! Believe me!" The Vulture laughs as he kidnaps Spider-Man. And there you have it, issues 4 through 6 of the initial arc from Spider-Man 2099, where we are introduced to the Samurai, one of his villains. Now, I was debating adding in the 6th issue as it kind of continues the storyline, but it does leave it on a cliffhanger. But as we're going to probably just continue doing Spider-Man 2099 due to the fact that all of you guys have been enjoying it, I'll just add it in here, and next time we're going to bring you 7 through 10. So make sure you subscribe to the channel and join us here on a weekly basis by turning on your notifications. And don't forget, you get early access to our stuff by going to our Patreon. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time right here.